Welcome back to the Daily Drum on WHUR and Sirius XM, channel 141. This is the Insight segment. I'm Harold Fisher. Tonight, power, access, and opportunity. We are spotlighting a really important event happening later this week in Maryland. It's called MBE Night in Annapolis, the largest conference for minority businesses in the state. It is touted as a one-stop shop for networking opportunities for entrepreneurs, for business leaders, legislators, and other state officials. Now, we have some of the state's heaviest hitters tonight to talk about diversity, inclusion, and economic empowerment in Maryland. My guests are Maryland State Delegate Sean Stinnett, who is the Deputy Majority Whip and a key member of the Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland, former Maryland Delegate Herman Taylor, and founder and CEO of MBE Night in Annapolis, and B. Doyle Mitchell, CEO of Industrial Bank. Thank you all so much for joining this conversation. It's a really important one, and I appreciate you spending some time with us.
Thank you for having me.
Great to be
Thank
with
you for having us, sir.
Sure thing. Herman, I want to start with you because there may be some people who are not familiar with MBE Night in Annapolis. This is not the first time this event has happened. It's been happening for a while. But what is the genesis of it?
Yeah, thank you, Harold. Again, it's good to be with you. And the genesis of it is to bring appropriate access to, minority business owners that still often, sometimes don't have the right networks or proper, again, access. This event coming up this Thursday gives them a high level access point to most of their elected officials, especially our leaders in the Legislative Black Caucus, and all the way up to the Governor Moore's administration, the Lieutenant Governor, the Comptroller, and the Treasurer will be there, among many other people. Major corporation CEOs actually fly in for this event that have, companies, locations in Maryland. And they're trying to demonstrate to the state that they're serious about equity and inclusion on these really large contracts they have. And MBE Night is one of the most trusted platforms that the state trusts and the community trusts to bring everyone together in one room. And it's really just about community building and really getting them access. And just lastly, my partners, the Legislative Black Caucus, I founded this with them 17 years ago. I mean, they're really serious about this stuff. I mean, we really, come Thursday, we mean business, and we mean business for underrepresented founders.
Yeah, but as you said, 17 years old, 17 years ago, Maryland didn't have a black governor. There was something that you saw, that there was a need. Certainly, there had been minority business programs even older than this event. But what was the thing that made you sit down and say,
Yeah, good. Yeah, excellent question. I mean, I no pun intended, but I saw, obviously, like you're alluding to, I saw white space, and I thought, yeah, there was a need for this. And then the first year that we launched this in 2009, during legislative sessions, 1,400 people came up. But at that point, there was just really there was no event. There was nothing centered in the Annapolis during session that had our name on it. Everybody had a major group coming up there. One of the most powerful government relations lobby group I ever seen in my life was the Humane Society. And I said to myself, man, they're more powerful than to some degree in our community in terms of their leverage in Annapolis and their reach. And so I wanted to create an atmosphere where our minority businesses were actually just not seen, but also heard. And I really believe then it made a difference. And that's why it's continued. And now the state of Maryland has really leaned in. At first, it was just me and the Black Caucus. And now the state of Maryland, because of the present day we're in, have really leaned into it. But it was I saw a huge vacuum in Annapolis. And I wanted to get minority business more on the table and just more prevalent in these discussions, because there was so many decisions being made in rooms that we didn't even have a seat at. We weren't invited into that room. And so I made a space and made a room. And it's been an incredible, my journey with this has really been, it's been an incredible journey.
Delegate Stinnett, this is a new experience for you, being in the House of Delegates, but even in that particular sense, you don't operate in a vacuum. You still have an opportunity to see the need for Black businesses, Black entrepreneurs, and the like. How would you characterize the landscape right now, and dare I say the politics for Black businesses, Black entrepreneurs in 2026?
Yes, no, thank you. And thank you for having me, Harold.
Sure.
So I'm new to the legislature. This is actually my second session. However, I'm not new to MBE Night in Annapolis.
Mm-hmm.
I've been affiliated with it even as one of the MCs for the evening. And I've been affiliated with the MBE Night for at least about 10 years, maybe even a little bit more. But the way I see it now is that, especially with the combination of with this administration and of course the leadership of the Black Caucus, Delegate N. Scott Phillips, is that now it's being more inclusive. It's more opportunities as far as being flushed out with every agencies because of the years, consistent of years with MBE Night and with the partnership as far as with a lot of the state agencies, because now we're seeing a lot of contracts, being unbundled. So minority businesses can even maximize even more on being engaged and being connected to state contracting opportunities, because that's what it's all about. Of course, we have an overall, the state has an overall aspirational goal of 29% as far as contracts within a fiscal year to have to reach out to those minority business enterprise firms. However, being at the, attending MBE Night, gives an opportunity to sort of have that connection and have that one-on-one conversation with not only the minority business firms, but even, professionals coming from the procurement space as far as within state agencies and folks that are looking for, those type of services as far as with firms that carry services, whether it be in construction and facility maintenance and commodities and so forth. So this gives an opportunity to say, hey, this is what we have. What do you have to offer, and how we can actually start to partner up and actually collaborate on a lot of these contracting opportunities.
Mr. Mitchell, as you know, I certainly don't have to tell you that the bottom line in business is finance, is capital. What role do you hope to play in this process? Not just MBE Night, but I think more broadly, kind of trying to reignite the fire for Black businesses in Maryland when there seems to be, political attacks, obstacles, challenges, and the like.
Well, thank you for having me, Harold. It's multi-pronged, the role that we play and the role that we want to play in financing, bringing financing to businesses. Of course, we are a bank, or a community bank, and we want to make loans. That's how we make money. We work with the SBA so that we can do SBA loans. But also one of the things that we cherish quite a bit is information. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of financial literacy for all groups of people, young, old, businesses, and the like. So we like to bring information. And through that information, sometimes it's resources as well, like we promote the SBA. They have a lot of programs that are absolutely free that I think we need to, in our community, take more, avail ourselves more access of.
I'm sorry, go ahead, please continue.
Well, and the third thing is, banks finance businesses in a certain way, but how can we come together and do more business with each other? And also, one of the things we've done lately is try to find other sources of financing, investor money, equity dollars, because we see a lot of businesses that we can't provide them debt financing because they don't have enough equity in their company. They do what they do very well, but sometimes turn down equity investors. And one of the things we want to do is make that more comfortable for businesses more comfortable for them to seek investment dollars so that the bank can then leverage that with debt financing.
Delegate Stinnett, do you believe that it is easier now or more difficult to do business with the state than it was, say, 10 years ago? What obstacles or challenges might a new business or a business that wants to contract with the state encounter?
Right. In my opinion, I think it's easier because now outside of me being delegate, I'll also carry the role as minority veteran and small business liaison for one of the state agencies. So it's not just me, it's more of me as far as throughout every state agency has a MBE, VSB, SBR liaison and also compliance supervisor. But we actually facilitate a lot of information that's the one thing that I do personally, as far as making sure that these businesses, these Black-owned businesses, have the resources, have the information on how to successfully submit bids, how to successfully win a bid, win a contract and so forth. So I think a lot more information is more fluid than it was 10 years ago. There's been a lot more training mechanisms and workshops and so forth. You have DOSM, which is the Department of Social Equity and Mobility, that they're producing, workshops and stuff, so it could be more easier and more manageable as far as that. Firms can actually submit a bid, understanding what they're looking at, and actually seeing what the process in terms of when you submit a bid. How long you have to wait until you get notified if you want it or not. And if you haven't, then you can ask questions on what can I do differently to be able to put myself in a better position on winning a particular bid from the state.
Herman, I have some more questions for you, and but before I even take a break, give me just the rundown about the who, what, when, where for MBE night. You said it's on Thursday. Are there fees, and what might someone who attends expect to get out of it, and where in Annapolis is it?
Yeah, thank you. So it's going to be February 26th from 5 to 9 p.m. at the Westin Annapolis. That's 100 Westgate Circle. And what they can expect to get out of it is, again, we have people that actually come sometimes and may line themselves up for a contract. We've seen that they can expect exhibit tables with incredible companies like Industrial Bank that's going to be tabling, trying to help businesses get their banking needs together. We'll just have, from government agencies to Department of Commerce is going to have a heavy presence there. So they're going to be able to really engage in so much. Right now we have over, RSVP'd 2,500, only a few spots left. This, again, is the largest conference for minority supplier inclusion in the state of Maryland. And again, we got a few spots left. It's a free event. It's a free event in thanks to partners, sponsors, again, like Doyle Mitchell at Industrial Bank. It's a rare opportunity because you don't get an event at this level offering this and then we're coming together saying it's for free, because we do not want to let $100 or $150, which is what this should cost per ticket, limit a minority business's access to information, and to empower and uplift them. We don't want them to miss it. So this is a free event.
And by the way, for those who do want to attend, you are asking people to register at mbeannapolis.com. So there it is, mbeannapolis.com. Still have a lot of questions and more conversation about state contracting, Black business, the climate, and as they say, you don't know what you don't know. So hopefully on the other side, we're going to tell you what you don't know. So please stay with us. The Daily Drum will continue on Sirius XM channel 141. And don't forget, you can hear this and every edition of the Daily Drum Inside segment via podcast on WHUR.com. The Original Quiet Storm with Raheem Devon is next on WHUR-FM. We'll be back on Sirius XM in just a few seconds. Welcome back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. We continue our conversation about MBE Night in Annapolis, an opportunity for networking and economic empowerment and business growth in Annapolis on the 27th. My guests are B. Doyle Mitchell Jr. He is the CEO of Industrial Bank. Also, former Maryland delegate Herman Taylor, founder and CEO of MBE Night in Annapolis. And we also have Delegate Sean Stinnett, Deputy Majority Whip and a key member of the Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland. I do want to do a deeper dive because, as I said in introducing you, Herman, and for those who may not remember, you were a state delegate years ago in the pre iPhone days, but
I feel officially old.
The tablet required a hammer and chisel,
Right.
but
You could have said rotary phones.
yes, exactly.
Wow.
But from your perspective, all jokes aside, Herman, how do you believe that contracting with the state and in general Black business in the state of Maryland has evolved?
Well, I do think we're obviously in a better place than when I got to the legislature, as you were referencing how long ago that was. That was, I guess, 22, 23 years ago. And there was some initiatives then. The Maryland Black Caucus has really been pioneers, if you think, especially when you think of what Maryland means to this country. I mean, the state is listed as #1 in the country for a minority business. And that's amazing when you look at Atlanta and you look at New York, and Maryland is really situated. We're now really situated because of this governor who's come in, and he campaigned on it, said it was a priority for him, and actually delivered and did what he said once he got in office. He's continued to make it a priority. And so there's a lot of exciting things. However, historically, there's still struggle there. And I'm proud of what the state of Maryland has done, and especially my former colleagues, how I remember that are still left with, when I was there. But they've made it an incredible priority too. Just to give you like at least one sign, and MB Night has been a big part of this. Just 5 years ago, you could kind of align it with Governor Moore's when he's coming to office. It was about 7,000 MBEs registered. The main thing is to get registered and certified, rather, that's the starting gate, and that gets you a ticket into the stadium, but it doesn't always get you admission into the game. And that's what I think my platform is for, that I share with the Black Caucus. But now you have 17,000 just in the past 4 years, the jump. 17,000 certified minority businesses now in the state of Maryland. So that's a significant jump. But the issue is that, how many of them are getting access to a contract? And the other issue with that is that most government contracting programs are predicated on you being a subcontractor.
What do you mean by that?
That means normally you're we back in the day, to sound old, but we used to call it sharecropping. And that means you are you're on a prime, there's a prime, they have the contract, and what delegates the net said earlier, the 29%. So they're required, if they're prime and they're winning some big contracts in the state of Maryland that I don't know if people know about. We know the federal government does trillions, but in the state of Maryland, they're doing billions too. So if a contractor that's prime wins $100 million contract, they're supposed to try to source 29% of that to someone that can help them do some of that work. And that's the state's like aspirational goal that's been established. And the Black Caucus has, every several years are helping the state review that to see if that should be increased. So it's come up, quite a bit. And so that's where you see the majority of minority contractors. Very seldom you see one that's a prime. There are a few out there, but that is the objective, to one day get more of their previous performance built up where they can, as a subcontractor, then where they know how to prime these contracts. And it's happened in a few cases. We have a few members of our organization that are primes.
I would say, real quick.
Go ahead.
So that's why it's very important in terms of, so the state facilitates 3 diversity programs. One is, of course, the MBE, Minority Business Enterprise. The other one is the VSBE, Veteran-Owned Small Business Enterprise. And the other one is the Small Business Reserve Program. So the Small Business Reserve Program, as far as that, MBEs can be a part of that program as well. That gives you an opportunity as far as to get the needed experience as a prime contractor. So, and due to the Procurement Reform Act of last year, House Bill 500, is that it goes from 0. So any procurement that's valued at from 0 to $1 million will automatically be procured as an SBR procurement. And a lot of those MBEs come in or have that SBR certification. So that's when they have the opportunity as far as to be and get that needed experience as a prime contractor, get those smaller contracts that, of course, then you can start building capacity. And then you can go to Doyle as far as, hey, I need, the funding. I need the necessary bonding to be able to obtain a much larger project. I have the experience now. Now it should justify as far as me getting the actual capital in order to be a prime to a much larger project.
So let me use my simple mind and try to make this plain. So, for example, one of the biggest contracts that the state has is grass cutting, and that's been an issue, for years across the state. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, Delegate Stinnett. So, if I have a small business and I am a subcontractor for a large lawn service that is already contracted with the state, okay, but I have Harold's lawn service, and I have a handful of big mowers, but just a handful, 3 or 4, and I got my guys working for Herman's huge contracting lawn service. So after I get a couple of years under my belt, and let me know how I'm doing here. At some point, I now want to contract with the state. Harold's Lawn Service wants to contract with the state, but I need more lawn mowers, the big ones. So if I want to buy 5 more, I don't know how much they cost, but let's say they cost $15,000 each. That means I go to see Mr. Mitchell and I say, look, I need 5 lawnmowers at $15,000 each. So do I go to him, get the money first, and then apply? Is that the process? And how do I get certified? I know that's a convoluted question, but I know that the people who are listening to this they're asking, how do they do that?
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
from the standpoint of financing, it's a little bit of the chicken and the egg because the bank is going to want to see that you've got existing revenues that can support the loan for the grass cutters. But at the same time, if you're already in business and you have revenues, we would love to provide financing for additional equipment so that you can grow and get the next contract. So maybe in your example, you do a lot of commercial work or residential work, and now you want to go after a government contract. It is feasible that we could finance some of those mowers so that you could go after additional work while we know and can rely on your existing business to pay for the mowers that we're going to finance.
Let me say,
Yeah, go ahead, Herman.
so going that's that good analogy that you made, and so I want to speak to that for a second. And that is that in that type of category, because I, not only was a former policymaker, the main thing I'm proud of is that I had grew and scaled a multi-million-dollar business. I was an office supply company. And we primarily focused on federal and state and local contracting. And so in certain categories like grass cutting, that's an opportunity for the state or any government to really dig deeper into small businesses and give them opportunity. And they could actually even start out as a prime with two mowers. And Delegate Sinet, correct me if I'm wrong, but because it's funny with Delegate Sinet, he's got 2 roles, and it's amazing. He's a procurement in the past capacity of procurement or his MBE in practice, and he's also helping do the policy. So he knows both sides of this. But from my experience as a government contractor, which is why I do the work I do now in advocacy, I started out small. The government broke up contracts, unbundled some. A lot of times back in the day, they were very bundled, and so now they're still doing that, trying to do that practice of trying to unbundle some of these. When you talk about lawn mowing and services like that, that's when the government doesn't have to get a huge contract on that, but they can actually unbundle it for the purposes. Especially these days, they're being more mindful with equity. Now, obviously, the state saves a significant money when they do use a lot of those larger ones that you alluded to, because there's a savings, and then they expect that large one to do the subcontract.
So, and real quick,
go ahead, Delegate Sinet.
This is a perfect example, because I know that if I had that individual who wanted to sort of start transitioning into government contracting, had that lawn mowing business, the first thing, as far as just as Herman mentioned, that I see the other side, as far as I know where the need is. One of the need is at like veteran cemeteries, that are state operated. That a lot of that's one of the procurements that's sort of challenging as far as getting qualified, minority and veteran firms, as far as to be able to obtain those type of contracts. So right there. You can come in just with a couple of mowing devices, but as far as Doyle mentioned, of course, you start building that capacity as far as on the number of sites that you are able to obtain. But yeah, that's something like that. That's the number one as far as need in terms of minority firms as far as lawn mowing at veteran sites.
And then so I'm not going to get, last point here, I'm not going to maybe have to go, like you mentioned or someone mentioned, to Doyle at first. Again, I can use my 1 or 2 mowers. I know if I'm going to go in this business, I have at least 1 mower, and I could still get some smaller contracts that the local state will give me, 20,000, 30,000. And then what I did with my company, the office supply company, I bootstrapped it and also scaled it up by getting smaller contracts and then being able to afford my own delivery trucks and my own warehouses. So I self-funded all of that pretty much miraculously without a bank. And I just grew as I grew smaller contracts, sometimes called a purchase order, which is still a contract. And so you can get smaller, purchase orders to do work, which will then give you investment to your company to expand it.
Delegate Stinnett, how does one become certified?
Well, one becomes certified as far as with the state, and this is the only way that you are able to see the opportunities coming from every state agency, is that you have to register with the e-commerce, the e-procurement system with the state, which is called EMMA. The acronym EMMA, E-Maryland Marketplace Advantage. That's the state's procurement system. And it's just that you can register your business. It'll literally take you less than 20 minutes. It's a 1-pager. Put all your basic demos, your company's name, your address, your email address, phone number, and so forth. And also it'll ask you a couple questions in regard to some tax information. And then also it'll ask you whether or not if you want to be with, you want to be a part of that SBR program, that Small Business Reserve Program, as well as veteran program. But it literally, as far as just registering into the EMMA platform, gives you an opportunity as far as to see exactly what state opportunities are there within every agency across the state of Maryland.
So that's registration, but the certification, is that different?
So there's 2 certifications that you can register or you can apply for within the EMMA platform, and that's the SBR, Small Business Reserve, and also veteran-owned Small Business Enterprise Certification, the VSBE. You can apply for those 2 through the EMMA platform, through the EMMA database. However, the MBE certification is slightly different, and it's a little bit of a longer process. The two certifications that I just mentioned, you can get certified within 24, 48 hours. However, getting your MBE certification, that's a little lengthy process and much more engaging, so to speak. I've always suggested that there is a Maryland Department of Transportation actually hosts a monthly workshop or every first Tuesday of each month. That is they walk you through literally through A to Z in terms of getting your MBE certification, and you can ask questions. You can do everything, prior to you actually filling out the paperwork. You do all this electronically, and that MBE workshop exactly is held virtually. But yeah, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
And you were saying, you said it's a bit of a more lengthy process. How much time are we talking about here?
So we could be talking about at least about 6 to 8 months. Sometimes it depends on if some information is incorrect as far as coming from the person that's filling out the application. It could take a little bit longer because they have specialists that comes in and actually review your application, ask necessary questions, do a couple of site visits to make sure that you have what you say you have as far as within the application. And then you'll eventually get certified. You'll get what we call NACE codes. You'll get certified in certain service areas that coincides with your company.
So Mr. Mitchell, earlier in the conversation, you were talking about some of the business-friendly services and activities that Industrial Bank offers. From your experience, first, what is it that newer business owners don't know, and where do you see them making their biggest mistakes or have their biggest obstacles as they pursue this path for government contracting?
Yeah, there's a few things, and word to the wise for the small businesses that are listening. When you get your certification, and you start to bid for a contract, do as much research as you can. Be very careful about how you bid for contracts. Some small businesses will bid very low because they want to get the contract, and may find out that there's not enough profit or no profit in the contracts once you've bid. And I've seen people grow their businesses out of business because they're bidding so low that they're getting the contracts, but they're not making any money on it. And then sometimes they're not including their indirect cost in how they bid these contracts as well. The gasoline and the mowers is one cost, but you have in-office contract. You may have interest on a loan that's directly related to that contract. So you've got to bid the contract such that there is a profit in the contract off the top. The second thing is we see businesses grow too fast sometimes, and if you grow fast, you have to have capital, either equity dollars, which most small businesses don't have, or you have to have the bank willing to continually increase your line of credit. And if you're not doing it profitably, that's going to be something very hard to do. And then the third mistake we see businesses make is they take too much money out of the company. Let's say the company is doing well. Now, all of a sudden, they are buying a bigger house or a different car, or they're taking money out of the company for personal reasons when you should really set yourself a salary and live on a salary. We see people take a lot of money out of the business, and you need that money to stay in the business so you can recapitalize the business yourself for the growth that you want.
It sounds like there's a lot of Icarus flying too close to the sun when it comes to
be patient with your success until you're able to sustain sort of the lifestyle that you want. And the last thing I'll mention, particularly with banks, but I'm certain with registrations and certifications, tell the truth. Be honest. Be honest. We want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly part of your story, and know that we are sitting across the table from people who are being honest with us. Because even though you might have an ugly story, doesn't necessarily mean that we can't make you the loan. We've done some loans in some situations that almost no one else would do, but the person was honest. They were upfront. They told me what's in their past, and then they have a plan. This is my plan for getting out of my past ills, and we love to do those kind of deals because we engender loyalty from those type of customers, because they said Industrial Bank did this when nobody would touch us. And there are good reasons why some lenders might not touch them. But if you have a plan and you're honest and you're open, your chances are much better.
Let me ask you this, Delegate Stinnett. Certainly as it relates to MBE Night in Annapolis, everyone wants to network. But what about making sure that this is a pipeline to real contracts and real dollars, and really having an opportunity to connect with the policymakers, and certainly even as you interact with policymakers, there's always the cautionary tale of business and politicians.
I would say, what I can say as far as, like I said, I've been affiliated with MBE Night for, like I mentioned before, at least 10 plus years. And I think Herman does a great job as far as setting the tone in terms of the panel, individuals that participate in the panel, as well as far as the agencies and organization and companies that are in the area or in the space as far as being vendors. And he comes to and making sure that you're talking real talk as far as opportunities. You're not giving any of these businesses any flush. They're looking for work. These agencies and everybody, including myself, has an understanding as far as opportunities, as far as to these minority business firms, is opportunity as far as for them to pay the gas and electric, for them to pay the doctor bills, the daycares, and so forth. So we know that we have to produce opportunities that they can be able to be fluid and be able to be engaged with, to make it real sense for them to actually, to stay in business, but also at the same time, give them a sense of education. And this is what Doyle had talked about earlier, give them a sense of education, understanding, and he's doing that through financial literacy. We're doing it as far as to make sure that what you need to do to make us win a successful bid or submit a successful bid, but also even what Doyle mentioned, and I've seen it all the time, be fair as far as with your submissions. Don't underbid so much that you can't perform, because then you'll automatically could be terminated for convenience because you're not performing. And then we have to go out to get another firm. That puts a bad record on your space as far as your company, saying if you get awarded again, they're going to remember and say, oh, hey, they underbid so much that now we have to question whether or not if you can do the job. Because I would say a lot of janitorial firms, to give you an example, I've seen a lot of janitorial firms underbid so much that they couldn't pay their workers. They couldn't pay their day and so forth. So so the agency had no choice but to terminate, for convenience of their contract, because they couldn't perform. They had too many complaints, so they had to move on from that previous firm.
Herman, I'll let you have the final word. For those who attend on Thursday, what do you hope that they take away from the experience?
Harold, can I just jump in before Herman closes us?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because this MBE night has been a phenomenal event over the years, and people that come should have a plan. Who do they want to talk to? Figure out who you want to talk to, what you want to get out of it. And there's hundreds, if not thousands, of people there, but have a plan, have a purpose. It's not a party, mean business when you come and seek to learn something about the process, about the people. When you come, I think they'll get the most out of it.
Thank you for that.
On that.
Thank you for that, Herman.
Listen, I know we're almost out of time, and my man, Doyle Mitchell, said it just as better than I could. So I'm just going to say that I agree with that. We do have a plan for them, what they want to come away with, and that is the information, a contact of someone that they can call the next day and sort of get something going. Remember, the key thing is the certification, unfortunately. That's the dependency that if you're a small business, you probably need to have to try to get in the game. The certification people are going to be there Thursday, okay? What you just discussed and all these good discussion we've had, I mean, this is going to take place on Thursday. This new department that they're standing up in Maryland to help minority businesses is going to be a majorly showcased at MB Night, the DOSM department it's called. We've never had a whole new agency, cabinet level, secretary, of course, appointed by the governor, direct appointment. This is a big deal. We're rolling this out, and it's going to help them with certification, and it's going to help them access government contracts. And that's the bottom line for this. When it's not fluff, we want to have real opportunities on the table for minority businesses come Thursday, February 26th at 5 p.m. There's only a few tickets left.
Okay. And again, as we said earlier, for those who are interested in, you who need to register, it's mbeannapolis.com, mbeannapolis.com. B. Doyle Mitchell Jr., Delegate Sean Stinnett, and Herman Taylor. Thank you all so much. Good luck on Thursday. I appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot.
That is the Daily Drum for this Tuesday, February 24th. I'm Harold Fisher.